So, how was it to be a gamer in Brazil in the 90s? So, first off, none of this is scripted. I'm not reading from a teleprompter, a TXT file, or anything like that. It's just my memory. And it's my recollection as I lived through the time. I was a child, but I don't think my memory is that bad. So, first off, how to play games to begin with? Like, how do you actually get to play in Brazil, a country that always had a huge disparity in wealth? So, forget about buying a console like from a place like a store or something like that. A legal channel, because we have absurd import taxes, and that's the 90s. So being in the 90s, you don't really have credit cards like we do these days. You don't really have like means to enable or increase your purchasing power and help you get stuff that's really expensive. And let's be real, consoles games, they're a commodity, and they used to be, especially back then, kind of a luxury commodity. It's not something you need to live. So they were already expensive. And uh, you know if you got to your parents and said, I want a video game, most of them would just tell you to go play soccer, football, or just go out and don't fucking annoy me. So it was really hard to get a console legally. So the way you did was you bought through the black market. We have a culture here. There's a saying in Brazil that it's basically like this: when a product is cheap, it's said it's from Paraguay, because most cheap stuff you used to find here legally was from Paraguay. Like, not really legally important from Paraguay, but people used to go to Paraguay. They bought stuff there and they brought it here and they resold it here for a profit, because that's how insane the import taxes here in Brazil are. You can buy something in another country, come here, resell it, make a profit, including the money you spend getting there and coming back here. So back then, the exchange rate of the real currency here and the dollar was basically 2 to 1. So 2 reais, $1. And the parity of prices was pretty similar. Like, if you wanted to buy a PS1 legally, you would pay basically the same thing you'd pay in dollars, except our minimum wage here was like $80. So yeah, you'd have to like work 2 months and a half to buy a PlayStation legally without having a credit card. So yeah, forget about that. Get one through the black market. So we had this thing called camelos, uh, basically street vendors, and they used to sell all sorts of things, including video games. So you could go there and buy a video game there, or you could get a newspaper. Forget about the internet, forget about eBay or Amazon or any of that trash. It's the 90s. You get a newspaper, you look for the section, sell by, and you hope you find the console you wanted there for a reasonable price. So those are the two ways you had to get a console. Now, if you didn't have the money or the patience, or you just couldn't get a console, you didn't have the money, you could go to a video rental store. Like, again, it's Brazil, it's the 90s, so forget about chain stores, like Blockbuster, anything like that. We had lots of stores, but we never really had like a big, recognizable name, a Blockbuster, a chain store. So you just went there and you paid to play a game, a console, by the hour, and that's how you did back then. Also, in the beginning of the century, like 2000, 2001, 2002, 2003, people used to do the exact same thing, but with the PCs. It was like the twilight of the video rental stores here. So that's how you did it. You either uh, bought it through the black market, or you played in a video rental store. Okay, all right. At least I can play a video rental store, right? And if I got a console, how the fuck do I buy games? I mean, you just told me everything is really fucking expensive. Well, again, you don't do it through legal channels. You buy it through the black market, aka pirated games. One pirated game was worth like 1/7 to 1/10 of a legally sold game. So like, why the fuck would you buy like a real copy of, I don't know, fucking Metal Gear Solid, when you could buy Metal Gear Solid plus seven other games, or 10? So yeah, basically no one owned no official games. Like, the only black PS1 CD we had was the one that came with the console. Okay, so games are cheap, but how do I know which games to buy? How do I know which games are good? Were good? There's no fucking internet. Word to mouth? I just go around asking my friends? Well, you could do that. Or you could buy a magazine, a video game magazine. We had those here, and we had some with quite a few history. Examples: some games went on for like 10 years, from the early 90s to, I don't know, 2004, 2003, about that. Maybe later, I don't know. Like, that one was the one with the most longevity. There was also Gamers, also went on for 5 years or something. That's the Cult magazine. They used to review lots of role playing games, stuff like that. And there were other magazines like Super Game Power and so on. But the two main ones were Gamers and Some Games, and uh, far behind them, Super Game Power. So that's how you knew which games were good, which games to buy. And if you were going to buy a game, you were going to buy a pirated game. Okay, but what if I can buy games? Well, you can still buy the magazine to know which games to play during your allocated time inside the video rental store. And also, we had kind of a community here. Like, even if you had a game, you probably wouldn't like just stay home playing the game. You would still go to the video rental store to play games with other people, to get to know people, just to like hang out. you know those were the 90s, so people weren't as fucking introverted as they are now, and that's basically how it went. Also, because things were physical back then, It wasn't like, oh, I'm just going to Steam and I'm going to buy a game there and my saves are there. We also, took our memory cards to friends' homes, and we shared saves, all that stuff. Like it, it was good. It was good. It was not perfect, but I must say, without piracy and the black market, gaming basically wouldn't have existed in Brazil. Like, yes, we had Gradiente for legal Nintendo shit, and we had Tectoy for legal Sega shit, but only the really really rich people, you know, bought from them because, yeah, very expensive. And those were the two main options we had. Like, we could still like import a console, like from direct shop or some other import company, but then you're basically fucked because, okay, you imported the console and the only means to get games for the console uh is from them. I mean, let's say you get a fucking Neo Geo CD. Like, I remember there was an offer i- in those magazines, like a great offer. Get a Neo Geo, get 3 games with it. Awesome. But not even in the black market you can find, pirated Neo Geo CD games. So the only way you're going to get Neo Geo CD games is from importing more games from direct shop or stuff like that. So there wasn't really an incentive to stick with the official, the legal way to get games, where it was always so much cheaper and so much convenient to just okay, I made a bad choice. I bought a bad game. Let's say I did it legally. Well, I'm fucked. I wasted a lot of money in this. Let's say I bought a pirated game. Well, it was just 1/7 of a legal game, so fuck it. I still have 6 other chances until I imperich you with buying a legal game and fucking up. And it was like that for everything. Of course, there were also aftermarket memory cards, joysticks, controllers, all that stuff, but people usually avoided them. That's the stuff people tended to buy legally because, uh, you know, a CD, a cartridge, okay, it can be of low quality, but it will probably run the same once you get in the console. But a a poor quality, a bad quality controller, or a bad quality memory card just ruins your fucking experience. I remember I bought a DualShock controller, in the black market, and it simply didn't work. And it's from the black market, so I really can't fucking return it. And that's how I basically never used a DualShock controller, an analog controller in the PlayStation ever, because that's the money we had allocated to get a DualShock controller. So there was also that side. And although the video rental stores were awesome, they they depended on the black market. They tried to keep it legal and have legal games, but you could also find black market games there, pirated games there. Again, there's no guarantee that the stuff you're gonna get there is official and or of good quality, because we didn't have that much money to keep replacing controllers and stuff like that. And also they depended on the black market to get games, to have a good variety of games, because you know if you're an import company, you're gonna get the games, the accessories, the everything that sells uh, most. So you're gonna go for the safe options. So if you only bought things legally, it was really like hard to find those, niche cult games. Like, for example, Art Rock Battle, Bakusou Dekutora Densetsu. It's a racing game where you have to drive a truck delivering goods all over Japan. I know this game because I got it, I rented it in a video rental store, and of course it was pirated, and of course you couldn't import it. No one else had it. No one offered it. So yeah, I I'm very confident to say that like many old school gamers here, they know more games. Old games, PS1 games, Saturn games, Nintendo games. The Super Nintendo, the N64, Sega games, Mega Drive or Genesis, and the Saturn. They know more of the catalog than your average, American or maybe even Japanese gamer, because we had like such a variety and an ease of access to games, pirated games. So yeah, I I think I'm rambling by this point. So I'm just gonna end the video here. I hope you learned something. See ya.